Welcome to SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. I'm your host, Susie St. Angelo, and thanks for being here. Today's episode is called Your Nervous System is Not the Enemy. And today I'll be talking to Lulu Song, a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator and the founder of Lulu Kumu, a healing practice that weaves together nervous system regulation, emotional release, and somatic tools for self-connection. You know, this podcast is for you if you know you want to change something. Maybe it's your career, your health, or another aspect of your life, and you might wonder if this is the right age or stage in your life to make a change. And you don't know how to start, or maybe you're one of those people caught in analysis paralysis. I see, I understand, I used to feel the same way. Just keep tuning in and you'll find one or two small steps to help you make those changes. And a reminder, you can find this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, iHeart, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get into today's conversation and meet my guest, Lulu Song. Hi, Lulu.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Well, thanks for being on SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. I'm excited to talk to you.
Same. Well, thanks for having me.
And I think it'll be a great conversation. And so I'm just going to get into it and say, can you tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to become a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator?
Yeah. Can you hear the background noise? Okay, perfect. That's great. Well, I actually found out about breathwork about, I want to say now 3 years ago when I was in Thailand at a meditation retreat center. And one of the yoga teachers who was so experienced and so well trained had a session on breathwork, and I joined her for a private session, and it was amazing. It changed my life. And of course, it was a different style of breathwork, which I didn't realize at the time. And we, of course, did pause breathwork, trauma-informed breathwork training together, which exposed me to a different type of breathwork altogether. So that was about, I want to say, almost 2 years ago, right?
It was. Was there something that led you to that experience that you went to Thailand? Were you looking for something?
I was, never been there, so it was just vacation, but also wanted to go to meditation center because it was so well rated. And I also wanted to really work through a lot of just the angst that I had about my life. At the time, I think I was right around 25, and I think now is called quarter life crisis. And so I really was just very, very lost, and I was trying to process things. And I think when you're in your 20s, you process things differently than how you process it in your 30s. And I didn't have a lot of the tools, and I was in therapy, but I felt like it wasn't getting to the root of it. It was not releasing a lot of the tension in my body. And breath work was the modality that exposed me to, or introduced me to, really the somatic healing of, different modalities, in this case, breath work.
What do you take away from the education and the experience? I mean, are you practicing it every day? Are you teaching it? What are you doing with it now?
Yeah. So I learned that there are different types of breath work. So the one I experienced was holotropic breath work. And that's very much a more intense version of breath work where you get to a non-ordinary state of consciousness, and then you get clarity and insights, and you release a lot of stagnant energy. It's a experience that uses circular breath, where we remove the pauses in between inhale and exhale, and that allows you to really deeply process things at a non-conscious or non-ordinary state of consciousness at that level. And of course, we learned about pulse breath work. And then I went and learned about pranayama, which is very much the yogi breath. And you may have heard already for the alternative nostril breathing. I don't know if that's something that you're familiar with.
I've used it.
Yeah, yeah. So then I learned, so these are the 3 types of breath work I've learned. And then there's other smaller branches that I have looked into. And of course, I did some hypnotherapy just because I specialize in that non-ordinary state of consciousness, and I wanted to be able to work effectively in that state. And so now I do both in-person events. I found that to be really effective with sound bath. So it's usually 2 of us facilitating the same workshop. And then I also facilitate virtual work sessions. So there's group and there's private. And for people who don't know what breath work is or who are wanting to just experience it, I do once a week free breathwork virtual session. And I do practice it in the morning.
Yes. So do you think there's a misconception about breath work and how people view it who haven't tried it?
I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion about breath work in my experience. Yeah. So a lot of times people will literally ask me, what is breath work? You know, I breathe. I think I already know how to do this. And so I think it depends on, number one, your practitioner, their training, and 2, what you're wanting to get out of breath work. I actually really was grateful that I attended one of the sessions yesterday who specializes in this gentle breath work. You feel really held in it, and it's really not quite using the breath in terms of the techniques, but rather meditative state and just really gentle and really healing in a different way. So because there are so many different types of breath work, and people can often get confused, like, are we just breathing? Are we learning techniques? Are we working through things? And why am I paying for something that I already know what to do?
Yes. Yes. I really like the fact that you are exposed to a variety and you know a variety of modalities. And I think it's really important because one size doesn't fit all for someone, you know, where it might be too intense to go too deep or too fast. What do you say about that to people who maybe go, oh, this is a little too much for me?
So for group sessions, is much less tailored to the individual. Obviously, there will be a theme. I used to exclusively focus on the non-ordinary state of consciousness. And it's actually quite physically demanding. It's actual work for about the first 15 minutes until your body gets into a rhythm where it feels like instead of you breathing your body's breathing you. But to get to that point, I'm giving you cues and encouraging, of course, to follow it, but also allowing your body to do what feels good and to not expose any type of discomfort beyond your comfort zone that would bring you out of or maybe into a re-traumatizing experience. So I'm very careful about that. So that I used to focus exclusively on that. And I found that there's a specific population that it works really well for. But I think that this is where private sessions come in, where I can then understand what exactly you're looking for. Are you looking for really a nervous system reset in terms of calming down your body? Are we looking to training your body, right? If you're looking to train your body to be calm and to react in a way that's not in one of the trauma responses, then I'm going to bring you into a very sympathetic driven state, fight or flight. Then I'm going to reach a state of you using your breath to become calm. So you know that your body feels unsafe, but you can also regulate that at the same time. And so another one is, are you just looking to be held with presence? Or are you looking for something that's much more technical? I just want to practice breath work. I want to know how it feels in my abdomen. I want to know how it feels in my chest and have someone to really facilitate that process. So there's so many different ways. And I would say that group is a good introduction, but I now weave a little bit of everything into my group rather than just the circular breath.
Sure. Well, that sounds wonderful. So let's switch gears. How does the nervous system play into all this?
Yeah. So I actually think the nervous system is so important to breath work, or maybe perhaps it's the other way around. Um, when I first had my experience, I was very much in a sympathetic lock, meaning that I was constantly in fight or flight. I couldn't really feel peace for maybe more than a few moments, and maybe even then it's rare. And I was just so in a state of constant irritation, constant hypervigilance. It's not until I had that breathwork session where it was about an hour of circular breath, and I felt like I was definitely, for the majority of it, not conscious in the way that we would be right now. And my body felt so light after, and I felt just so much weight lifted off of me. I used to say before that session, I felt that there's like a weight on my chest, and then it lifted. And that's when I was like, whoa, I need to stay here and learn more about this. And so that's where the journey began, where it was in that type of breath work, I was able to release energy, but also with the nervous system, it trained me to feel that I can be in an intense physical state, but also feeling safe. And so allowing the nervous system to relax, allowing your body to know that you're safe, not just from a mental level, but from a somatic level, has to do with the fact that you're now able to use your frontal lobe, the logical mind, to now make decisions that are good for you, to not let your emotions and your intense feelings drive your decisions, and that may create chaos or make things worse than it already possibly is.
Mm-hmm. I don't think people really know that much about the nervous system, and I'm not sure that they'll pay attention. They'll assume it's something else. I had, and thank you for sharing, your story and being brave to share that. I remember, I was noticing I was off and I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't cry at my dad's wedding. I wanted to be asleep when I was awake and awake when I was asleep. So there were some other factors going on, but I too had an issue with my nervous system, only I flatlined. I had no fight, no flight, none of that. And so my cortisol and adrenals were just needed to be re-regulated and retrained, basically. And so that was an education for me in midlife. And it's a point of self-awareness. Something's off.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Sometimes rest is so important. And to be able to get to the state of truly restfulness can be facilitated by breath work. And that is so helpful to just be able to actually truly relax.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And I believe silence is really good too. And I think people have a hard time with silence now. But every time I've done breath work or been in a breath work session, that moment of just having no music and just being silent is such a gift.
Yeah, I agree. I actually did a session just a couple weeks ago with no music.
Good for you.
It was wild. I did forewarn people that it might have been very intense because then all the things bubble up. I do use music a lot in my breath work sessions, but I do find it that it's kind of an anchor, and sometimes it can be, it can be nice to just be there and listen to music. But if you let the thoughts bubble up, witness the emotions, witness them and witness yourself in that moment, can be a very intense experience. But I think that's exactly what we need in terms of being with our pain and processing that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm noticing it. So, why do you think people should pay attention to their nervous system? And is it any age? Do you think it's age specific or generation specific?
I think that's a great question. I'm not sure if it's age specific. I see people in my group breath work. I've only breathed minors twice, and there was, I would say, intense amount of paperwork that had to be done prior. And I did witness minors who, of course, it wouldn't be normally as intense of a breathwork session as I would normally facilitate. But I do notice that there are kids around teenage-aged kids have really dysregulated nervous systems. And I do see older people, even about the age of 65, who breathe with me, still have nervous system issues. And of course, majority of people are actually around, I would say, 30 to 46. Yeah. And so I'm not sure if it's age specific, but it's important in that it allows us to make better decisions, allows us to have better health. And I think it's both physical health, emotional health, and even mental health with how our nervous system functions. Sometimes I find that when my nervous system is dysregulated, and it still happens nowadays, I just now have more tools to regulate it, my decision capacity is not nearly the same. So I think for me, it helps with decision making.
Mm-hmm. Well, I find it brings clarity,
Absolutely.
and I'm not sure, as we're developing as people, I'm not sure we were given a lot of skills and tools back then to know what it was and what was triggering it and how to regulate our nervous system. And I think breath work is one of those tools. And the skill is, the self-awareness and recognizing something is off, and knowing that you need to do something different to get out of that state. And so there's different states. There's the fight, the flight, the freeze, and the fawn. Can you talk a little bit about each state? Maybe an example of that?
Yeah, so we're talking about trauma responses. There's the fight or flight, that's the sympathetic nervous system. And there's the rest and digest, parasympathetic system. And then in the polyvagal theory, we also have, I'm not going to go into detail. I don't think this is the right episode for that. So you can have fight or flight, rest or digest. Freeze is another response, and then fawning. So an example would be, let's say let's say on your way back home, you see your house door being opened, and then you go into the house. The door of the house is open, and you don't know what's going on. You go into the house, and you see maybe there's an intruder in your home. Fight or flight, meaning you will then fight the intruder. That's your trauma response. Rest and digest would not be applicable really in this situation. It's unlikely you are gonna feel safe enough to then eat or do what you need to do to rest. The freeze response is a common one as well, where you see there's intruder at your home and you just don't know what to do in that moment. You just freeze. And that's another way of our body system keeping us safe, right? Sometimes playing dead is the best way. And then, fight or flight, you can also be running out of the house. That's in the same sympathetic response. And then freeze and then fawning. Fawning is most commonly seen, and I don't really think this is the best example, but it's most commonly seen in younger female, where, let's say, if you have a male who's maybe an authority figure, and you don't feel safe with this male authority figure, and the way to keep yourself safe is to say, actually, I'm very agreeable to what you say. I don't feel safe, but whatever you want me to say, I will do it. I'm very agreeable. So it's going to also seem like I may be happy to comply, but that's not the case. You're just trying to get yourself into a safe place.
Interesting. I think for me, the stress level I was under for so long, kind of just killed my fight or flight, because I think I was in flight for a long time. I just wanted, and I think it was just burning me out, truthfully. I wish I'd had the tool of breath work, even though I was doing yoga and I could put myself to sleep, in a breath pattern that I learned in yoga class, which helped. It wasn't enough to bring me back into that state, that calm state.
Yeah, it's really helpful to have that as a tool. And I would say I see a lot of female my age I'm in my 30s now, who have felt burnt out with, I think there was a narrative of girl boss lean in. I think we then spent a long period of time trying to make everything work. So for me, my fight kicked in. So I was just doing all the time. And it really drained me to the point that I just feel like I got nothing else to give. So I think it's important to make time to rest, to make time to heal, to make time to breathe.
Oh, absolutely. And breath work, taking a walk, just resting without a purpose in mind, um, sitting out in sun, and getting vitamin D, I think is really helpful. Um, I don't think technology, in terms of watching a movie or games or anything like that, is healthy. It just
Yeah, especially for us who work remote. I'm literally staring at a screen most of the day. The last thing I want to do is stare at the screen. But I did hear recently about the Japanese interval walking that really helps with these anxiety or depression symptoms, where it's 3 minutes slow walking or just leisure walking, 3 minutes of brisk walking, and then you do that 5 times, and that gives you a 30-minute walk. And apparently it's very effective based on new studies.
Well, that's interesting. I was taught, through changing my lifestyle, to even do like burst exercise training. Are you familiar with burst training?
No, but is it similar to HIIT?
Yeah, it's for 10 seconds, 20 seconds at a time, high intensity, and then you back off, and you do that a number of times. Um, I didn't particularly love it. I didn't particularly hate it. It was just another variety to throw in there to, but I always notice that after I've been to the gym, it's more psychological than physical for me. I love the physical benefits, but I like the psychological, mental benefits better.
I think the only reason I go back to the gym is for the mental benefits.
True. I agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. So, the nervous system survival, I want us to get away from thinking that it's negative and bad, that it's something is good or bad, because I think that only trains your mind to see things a certain way. And I think that there's always ways for us to retrain our mind and to think about new ways to put new things and positive things into that. Do you think mindset and your attitude has anything to do with the nervous system?
I think that's a good question. I know that rumination, which is, thinking negative loops, tend to be a very indicative sign of things like depression. The idea of survival, maybe, so these trauma responses, they were there for a reason, right? If back in the days we ran into a bear, you want to run. If you were to encounter something, you want to fight. So these are wired into us as survival mechanisms. Right now, though, in modern day life, what's happened is that we don't have a sign. For example, the bear's chasing us, now the bear is gone. We don't have a sign to tell our bodies like, okay, now we're safe, we can relax, right? So what's happening is we have these little mini bear attacks, and then we're not able to relax. And so we're constantly stuck in a mode. And so the idea is that we want to be able to be fluid. We want to be able to be sympathetic or parasympathetic, right? We want to be able to react fast, whether that be fighting or running, fight or flight, or when it's gone, you rest and digest. So there's not chronic stress when it's not even really present. So that fluidity is a sign of a really healthy nervous system.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know. You told me once that we are 3 deep breaths away from a good or bad decision, and that we are the observer.
Yep, I live by that. I think I mean, there are days where I don't get enough sleep and I'm hungry, and I know that I clock that in myself. And before I say something, I take 3 deep breaths and I think, do I want to say this? Would that make my life more difficult or easy?
Good tip. You know what I find really activates me, and I've noticed it more in the last month because I've been having more coffee meetings. 1 cup of coffee is fine for me, but you throw a second one in, and it totally messes with me. It messes with my nervous system. I get agitated. I want to push fast. I want to move fast. I want to drive fast. I mean, I know that, and I probably have known that, but it's really doing something to my nervous system right now. At this stage in my life, not today, but it's one thing I notice.
Yeah, no, same. I read a study where it said coffee affects extroverted people less than introverted. And I'm very introverted, meaning I get energy drained by interacting with a lot of people. And so, yeah, so when I drink coffee, when I drink coffee, like even half a cup of coffee, I am off. I am jittery. I have all the things that you talked about. So I don't actually drink coffee.
Good for you. I noticed, and I've changed in the last 3 years to the point where I used to get up and have coffee right away. And now I get up, I have a glass of water. A lot of times I will work out, I will have breakfast, and then I will have coffee because I think um, my body and my mind have had time to wake up naturally without the effects of coffee. And by that time, I really, feel like the food in my system has helped, um, like moderate, or it's not quite the jolt to my system, you know?
Right. I used to drink coffee in the morning too, and I'm just, off on the rest of the day.
I think that's good that we can shift our patterns and realize that maybe what was good for us, or what we perceived as good for us back in our 20s and 30s, is not good for us going forward, that our bodies and systems change, and we do too.
Right. And even if it's the culture norm, because I think drinking coffee is such a norm for our society and our culture. And so even if it's norm for majority of people, it might not be right for you, and that's okay.
A coffee meeting now is more like a water or a soda meeting for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Same here. Sometimes I'll grab a tea, and that's really calming.
Definitely. Do you want to do any type of breath work today? A short breath work session to show what you offer?
Of course. I probably won't be able to do the circular breath where we use breath as a tool to take us to the non-ordinary state of consciousness, because that takes a little bit of time to get into that state. Yeah, let me see if we can share music on this. Were we able to do it last time?
I don't know. I'm not sure that we can, but just go with the flow. If we can't, we can't.
We'll just do it without music, because let me try if we can do it with music. If we can, we will. Do you hear it? No? Yeah, no, we can't do it with music. And we'll just do a simple breath exercise. It'll clear our channels. It'll be good to move some energy in the morning. All right. I wouldn't do this if you're driving or in the hot tub.
Good point. Pull over and get out of the hot tub.
Yeah. Okay, so whenever you're ready, feel free to close your eyes. Yeah, relax your body and just take a deep breath at a pace that feels good for you. A deep breath in through the nose, allowing your abdomen to expand, allowing your ribcage to expand, feeling your lungs expanding, and letting it go, perhaps out through the mouth. That's it. In through the nose, allowing your diaphragm to drop, lungs to fill up, and letting it go. That's it. In through the nose, and out through the mouth. And when you're ready, we're going to do a short burst of breath where we will be exhaling really fast and with force. And the inhaling is going to fill up naturally. It's going to sound like this. And you might go at slower pace if that feels better for you. And just whenever you're ready. We're here for about a minute. That's it. Allowing your abdomen to contract back on your exhale. Keep going at the pace that feels good for you. Releasing anything that you no longer want to carry today. Releasing stress, worries, anxiety through every exhale. That's it. Blow it out. Whatever it may be, blowing it out. Staying present with any sensations or anything that might be arising. And take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Going back to the pattern, exhaling sharp and with force. And so we're here for 30 seconds. Imagining anything you no longer want to carry with you today. Perhaps that's anxiety. Blowing it out through your nose. Maybe blowing into a balloon. Let it get bigger and bigger. Just blowing out into the balloon. Letting it go. Imagining whatever it is that no longer serves you goes right into the balloon. That's it. Through every exhale. That's it. In through the nose. Then on your exhale, let go of the balloon. Let it go out of sight. In through the nose. Let it go. That's it. One last inhale. Now hold here for just 15 seconds. Noticing how the balloon is now gone. Out of sight, out of mind. Noticing the sensations in your body. Perhaps a moment of peace. Let it go. That's it. Return back to your everyday breath. Just give yourself a second to come back to this room. Coming back slowly to the screen. Feel free to shrug your shoulders, turn your head from side to side. There's no rush.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Amazing.
That was such a calm way to start the day and the week.
Oh, amazing.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. So short breaths like that, we can just practice on our own, and whenever you need an anchor, your breath is always there.
The nice thing about breath work is you can practice it anywhere, anytime. You can be in your office if you go to an office. You can be in your home office. You can be in a car. You can be in a bedroom. You can do it anywhere.
Absolutely. And you don't even need a lot of time. I always say 3 to 5 breaths. It'll get you out of whatever immediate mode that you're in. Doing it for 5 minutes will change your mood. And if you're looking for grief support or deep processing, of course, that'll take longer. But something like maybe you're agitated in the moment, maybe you're anxious, just recentering yourself, 3 to 5 breaths.
I agree with that. So Lulu, what is your SOS for someone who's listening or watching this? What are 1 or 2 steps they can take besides contacting you and joining one of your online groups if they're not local that can help move their life forward?
That's a really great question. One of my tips is actually, it has nothing to do with breath work. It's just get enough sleep. It'll solve 80% of your problems.
It's a great tip.
And so I always look at, did I get enough sleep? How sleep deprived am I? And I know it's not always doable to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, but just know that if sleep is off, most likely your diet is off, most likely your exercise is off. It just snowballs.
It
And so that's,
does.
yeah, one of my tips.
Good tip. Good tip. Is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't talk about today? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I've done a few of your breathwork sessions, and I really enjoyed them. And I was hoping that you could talk about how your breathwork sessions and your style is different than maybe what I've described, just so that people can know the different varieties of breathwork.
Well, thank you for asking. I kind of view my breathwork practice as more of a calming,
Mm-hmm.
relaxing,
Mm-hmm.
and safe space. I think every breathwork session is a safe space, but I definitely believe when people come in, they're looking for something. They're looking to be either find grounding with me or to let some things go that they've been thinking about. It's like a wheel, a vicious wheel that people want to get off. And so I view mine as a real soft landing for people to come and be, whether it's virtually or in person. I've done a few more in person sessions. And what I notice about in person, one, as an introvert, I have to speak up more, but two, people love touch. And in light of where we were 5 years ago with the pandemic and no touch and no, close proximity, now people want to have that sort of intimacy. So in person, I tend to focus more on touching the head, the shoulders, the legs, the feet, kind of thing. And I think that that really helps people kind of ground into their space and feel a connection to the community. So I like building that sense of community too with my breathwork practices.
How do you build that community with breathwork? Because I find it to be a lot of times one-on-one, or rather an individual process, if that makes sense.
I think you have to build it perhaps around a theme, whether it's having a common theme that people, especially if it's more women, can relate to, whether it's about the self in some aspect or, the changing of seasons. I think now's a great time because for many women, they're either getting kids off to school or off to college, or they're going through menopause, or they're changing careers, or they're leaving the workforce. And that can apply for men too, mind you, but I've seen it more with women. And so I think some themes around change too can be good. So I think once you put it out there, or even women who are going through menopause, people want to talk about that, what that experience is like. And if you can find that with the nervous system, the correlation, I think you could draw in a number of people who want to share and want to be in a community where people relate.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I do a lot of grief type of sessions, and I find that's rather difficult for people to sit with, even in groups. And so it might just be the theme, and it might be comfort level with the particular topic of grief, because I can see how that would be kind of challenging for people to open up with strangers.
Well, sure. Some people like grief groups, and other people would rather talk to one, maybe two people about their grief. So I think it's all in the person who's attending and how much they want to open up. But you might just try some different themes, um, and see who shows up. But how about you? Is there anything else you want to share?
uh, no, because I think when this episode goes out, my most upcoming event will be done.
Okay.
Well, I do. Oh, you know what? I do host weekly virtual breathwork session on Tuesdays at 7. You can find me at lulukumu.com. It's really good for all stages, but people who are mostly curious about what breathwork is about. So I'm just spreading the word.
So besides your website, where can people find you, Lulu?
Yeah, at lulukumu_ on Instagram. And you can find me in Minnesota in local studios.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you, Lulu, for being on SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. It's always good to see you and to reconnect. And, full disclosure, we met during our pause breathwork training, and I'm just thrilled to.
We're doing free advertising right now.
Yeah, we're unpaid advertisers. But I'm so always glad when our paths cross, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Same. Thank you so much for having me on and making time this morning.
Thank you. Well, friends, sadly, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for listening or watching SOS for Your Life, Emergency Wisdom for Everyday Life. And thank you, Lulu, for joining me today. This episode was a conversation about the nervous system and how breathwork can help. A quick reminder on how you can support this podcast. Like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or you can reach out and send me an email if you'd like to subscribe to my weekly email newsletter, or if you have a question or you just want to talk about coaching or breathwork, I'd be happy to chat. Thanks so much. Until next time, take care, and I hope our paths cross again.